All right, we move into the second hour of the four that we have for our Tuesday. Ryan Norris is here. He is the chair of the Arkansas chapter of Americans for Prosperity. We have a lot of cover that we need to get to during this hour. I mentioned earlier in the first hour that Carlton Wing would be on with us, and he's taken over the governmental television here in the state, and I wanted to talk to him about the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, saying they're going kaput. They are shutting the doors and turning out the lights, and how is that going to affect us in Arkansas? So we'll talk to him about that at 9:05 here on the Dave Elswick Show. But right now I've got Ryan Norris here with Carlton Wing taking over that position. We lose him as a state representative in the state legislature. Who's running for that position, and what can you tell us about him?
Yeah, so we, Americans for Prosperity, is excited to give out our first endorsement for this this election cycle. Now, this is a unique one because former Representative Carlton Wing is now heading up Arkansas television here in the state. It opened up the seat to a special general election.
Right.
And so
because he still had another year.
He still had another year. And so whoever would run for his seat had to run a general election campaign, just like during the same primary time period. So March the 3rd is the special general election. Everybody will be voting their primaries on the preferential primary that day. But also, House District 70 will have a special general election for March the 3rd. And then they have to turn around and run again.
Do it again the next year.
Immediately, the same year.
Oh, okay.
Have to
in
run
the fall.
for
That's
in the
right.
fall. So have to run in November of 2026. So you have to run in March of 2026 and again in November of 2026. And House District 70 is unique because it's kind of it's a swing district in a way.
It's bright purple.
Yeah, it's they've had good representation with Representative Wing, and he's done a really good job of having the community support because he's a great communicator. He votes his district. He stays on point with policies that he knows will help and affect his district. And we've been proud to have supported him in the last two election cycles. But this is, again, a tough race. So in 2022, which would have been an off-year election, a midterm election, Representative Wing won by 1,298 votes.
Right.
In 2024,
they put a bullseye on him.
He won by 286 votes.
Yeah, they wanted him out of it.
Yes, and so this is a seat that Democrats believe that they could, with enough hard work and resources, get in there and flip. And we are excited to endorse Bo Renshaw as the replacement for Representative Carlton Wing because he has strong alignments with us on fiscal policy, education policy, energy policy, and he is also a man who is very well thought of in the community. He has a really good reputation. He's a small business owner and very involved in what goes on around there. Representative Wing and I chatted about his replacement, and he told me he's like, Bo's the guy. And so I've had plenty of time to have conversations with Bo Renshaw, but we're excited to get to work on his behalf. We need every policy champion that we can find that is there because of the people. They want to represent the people, and I believe that Bo Renshaw is that kind of person.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll get Bo on and talk with him here fairly soon, since the primary is coming up in March. We want to talk to him, find out, and that's going to be the general election is going to be on primary day, right?
Yes, yeah. And so the Democrats just had, was it yesterday? I think, was it? There was a primary that the Democrats had, and they said 1.3% voter turnout according to the newspaper. Now that's not indicative of what the turnout would be on March the 3rd.
Right.
But this is an interesting little spot to be in, because you're trying to run a general election in a primary time frame, and in general, primaries have less voter turnout than the general elections do.
Yesterday we had the run for who's going to take over Stubblefield's seat. Mm-hmm. As well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy the way they're doing that, I think.
Yeah, and it's the same thing there, special general election, because I don't think, Stubblefield was not up for re-election this go around. So there's a little bit more time on that one, as far as time in office for the one who wins that. So, again, excited to get involved. We have more coming endorsements that we will be making, and endorsements from AFP come with our grassroots capability. So we're already yesterday, my team and I were having conversations about responsibilities for making sure the doors get knocked and the phone calls get made.
Right.
I've got a great team that works with me, and my deputy is Jason McGee, comes with election experience in the policy and government affairs area. Gabrielle Harvey, election experience, government affairs, came to us from the governor's office. Dallas Green, who has election, campaign experience, grassroots experience,
who is always involved with the important
always
election.
Involved. And so, we're excited about getting involved. My team is all on point. We've been working a little bit ahead to make sure that when all the materials are in place, that we're going to be able to get out there and make an impact in this race.
So how difficult is it for the listeners to understand, Ryan, to get people motivated to get out and start knocking doors again? I mean, we just did this with an election where, the presidency was up for grabs. Now it's an off-year election, but you don't want the other party to make inroads into, where you're holding strength.
Yeah. Well, that's an appeal that I would make, is that if you're interested in House District 70, or you have connections to House District 70 and you would like to be helpful in that, reach out to us. You can go to believenar.com, go to the Contact Us, and just shoot us a message. Or you can call me directly at 501-515-2195, or email me at rnorris@afphq.org, and we'll get you connected into it. You have to put in the work and the effort. And
that's what I was referring to last hour.
Right. I have an acquaintance who is very left of me. But he and I have found common ground and worked on some things, particularly fighting against sales taxes here in Little Rock.
Yeah, good for him.
And he said this comment that makes a lot of sense, Dave. He said, conservatives fall in love with campaigns. He goes, progressives and liberals, we fall in line. We get together and we start organizing. We're not afraid to make the phone call. We're not afraid to make the door knock. And has been my experience and my observation is that conservatives are like, well, I've got this to do and that to do, and I'd rather go talk to this group or talk to that group. And everybody, I remember, Dave, when I was in county politics or in county party apparatus, and that was when I was really young. And I remember feeling like we were pushing the same $100 bill back and forth to each other. We'll go do $100 at your fundraiser. You come do $100 at our fundraiser.
Yeah.
And nothing was going anywhere. And I'm like, does anybody catch on that we're not really advancing anything here? And
we're spinning our tires.
And so if you feel like you don't want to spin your tires, and you really do think that the American way of life is continually under threat, Reagan said it's one generation away from being wiped out. We're hanging on by a thread right now. If you think there are individuals out there who align with your values, like we feel Bo Renshaw is, then join with groups like Americans for Prosperity who are out there supporting those candidates. And not only do we support them and then just sit back and forget it, but then we hold them to the word that they gave when they said that I think I'm aligned with you guys.
If they're not doing what they're supposed to, you'll find out about it through the folks that are sitting here with me in the studio.
But the way of keeping, people will talk about this often, like, oh, they get elected, then they go up there and they just change. Well, you know why? Because your voice usually stops right after the election happens. And we need to keep those voices in their ears because they're hearing from other sides. And those other sides aren't necessarily always wrong or, bad. It's just they may not be in your interest. So make that, you have to get them elected and then hold them accountable to the promises they made during those elections. And AFP has resources to help with that. We have methods to help with that. We won't do it for you, but we will work alongside you. So that I'm really pushing this year to get more citizen engagement, Dave, meaningful engagement. Like I said, pushing the same $100 bill across from each other isn't really helpful. Having the same conversation over and over with the same group of people is not helpful. You've got to go to people who don't know what's going on, let them know what's going on with credible information, and find out where they stand on the issue. And then if they stand with you on those issues, get their support for that candidate or for that policy. Don't sit on the sidelines. If you are going to complain and sit back and be like, I'm complaining about this, that, and the other, don't just accept that as the status quo. It can change. I've had conversations with folks who are like, Ryan, this policy is just so terrible. It's just, I'm saying, well, I got good news for you. You can change it.
Yeah.
You can change it. And you know this, Dave. You've been involved in this. I mean,
for a long time.
How do you feel about the final glimpse of the grocery tax going out? You've done work on that.
Yeah, for 25 years.
Yeah. And you put in the time and the effort and put in campaign work on those kind of things and use your voice and your capability as a radio personality to educate people on it. And some of that even happened under a Democrat governor.
Yep.
So it's doable, right?
Yeah, I got to give credit to the Democrat governor that we're talking about, Beebe. He was the one who made the initial charge to get rid of the food tax. It was not a Republican.
Yeah. And
in fact, the Republican fought against us.
There were some that did, but now that it's going bye-bye. And that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
And I know there's those out there trying to say, oh, that's just a tiny amount and all this. Well, there are other taxes that, the income tax, the state income tax went from 7.9 down to, 3.9 now on individual income tax. That's a big deal. That's more money in your pocket. And if you read, there's a DemGaz article today. Now, the title is Report Arkansas's December General Revenue Down from 2024. Well, yeah, you know where it went? You know where that money went? Into the pockets of the people. And you go down here, and we're still in surplus.
Yeah.
Even after cutting as much as we've cut.
Considerable surplus.
Yes. And so, so 1.2% higher than the previous fiscal year. This is on for total revenue. We're up still after cutting taxes. And you'll see that correspondingly. One of our partners is Greg Kaza with the Arkansas Policy Foundation. And Greg has a great paper that he's written that shows even accounting for externalities like COVID dollars coming into the state, every cut has had a corresponding surplus to it. And why is that? Well, when you start cutting taxes, people get to keep more. They're spending more. That money's being sales tax. There's a state sales tax.
Yeah, they're not taking that money and stuffing it in their mattress.
No, it is going out there. And so whenever you take that money and let's say you have $500 in additional revenue, or disposable income in a year, you get to take that money and spend it on what you need to spend it on. And that good or service requires somebody working to provide that to you.
All right, we're going to talk more about this when we come back on the Dave Elswick Show. When I have Ryan on, I like to talk a little bit of political philosophy with him. And this is one of the political philosophies that I am aligned 100% with Americans for Prosperity. Hey, don't forget about the Affordable Care Act. It's an oxymoron to name it the Affordable Care Act. Why? Because, as you know, with the price surges that are happening in buying health insurance, it's not affordable, and it doesn't care for a lot of people. That money is not helping a lot of people get the health care, quality health care that they need. So what are you to do about that? Well, I'm going to suggest that you get a hold of your health plan man and talk to them, because you will find out how to save money with your health insurance, and you're going to find out that you can get health insurance that really does what it needs to do to help you with your health. Conservative health plans that reward you, not insurance companies or government, for your smart health care choices. Plus, when you give your text, ask them to send you information if you own a company and you've got 10 or more employees and you want to hear about a program that costs you nothing, gives your employees additional health benefits, and you get a write-off. You'll want to know about that, so ask about it. If you need health insurance, want to be in control of your own health care, then what you need to do is text NOW to 501-650-6520. That's text the word NOW, N-O-W, to 501-650-6520. And let your health plan man team help you out. All right, back with you, Dave Elswick Show here on 101.1. The Answer. Good to have you along with us for the ride this morning. Don't forget, coming up at 9:05, former, I hate saying it that way, but former state representative Carlton Wing will be with us. And what's the call letters of the television here in the state? AETS, is that what it is?
AETN.
Yeah, TN, yeah. That's what he took over. And I'm wanting to have him on with us today to talk about, there's a lot of money being moved around as far as they're concerned, and how is that going to affect AETN? See, I'm all about ATN if they're doing, talk shows on that station that is talking to candidates and things of that nature, and that the person who's doing the show is balanced, because that's what you got to be on that show. You got to be balanced. You got to basically ask the same questions of everybody that comes on, so that the viewers have a view of what the politicians are thinking about those things. I know that Steve Barnes did, political talk for a long time here in the state, but he was far from being a conservative. Let's just put it that way. And he made it known when he was on the air, and I had problems with that.
Yeah. What was the William F. Buckley show? Was it Firing Line?
Firing Line.
Firing Line. Yeah. Oh, and again, he had a perspective, but man, he had people on that were totally opposite of him.
Oh yeah.
And the conversations were fantastic, and we need to get back to that. There are some conversations on policy that are points of view and perspectives that are different. And I will say that I like to always think that mine are the ones that have the preponderance of evidence and historical time tested utility to to be the right ones, open to nuance, open to deferring to knowledge that's greater than mine in some of these areas. But we need to get back into those conversations to where we're not talking about the foundational principles of Western civilization. We're talking about, well, should the government do this or should the government not do that? And having those conversations. And they're like, okay, well, to what degree should the government maybe do that? If you look at pure libertarians, they're going to say, well, they shouldn't be doing roads. They shouldn't be doing armies. They shouldn't be doing this. Well, that can't be quite the perspective. I don't think that G.K. Chesterton has said it's not bigotry to think you're right. It's bigotry to think that you can't possibly be wrong. And so there's times where your idealism does have a tinge of, that's a little too far and would not be in your good nor the public interest if that was the way that it was designed. But having those conversations is very important. Free speech isn't just about saying what you want, when you want, how you want. It covers that. But it's about the search for truth. It's about the marketplace of ideas.
Which makes it difficult whenever I have a liberal on because they don't even believe in truth.
Then that can be because you have those that the truth is relative. And I have these...
And that means there's no truth.
I've had these conversations recently with someone who's like, well, that is one perspective. I'm like, it's not a perspective. It's actually facts that when this happened, these things happened. And here it is where it happened that way again, and the same things happened. The outcomes were the same when that was being considered, or when that was the policy that went forward. And so it's not a perspective. It's it doesn't work. If what you really want, and that's where you have to get to, is agreed upon values. Common. Sometimes the best you can do is common ground, if not common purpose. But if you can find common purpose, and we can discuss where the common ground is, that's American politics environment we want to be in.
We'll talk about some of that when we come back. Time for the news. Let's take that here on the Dave Elswick Show. All right, back with you here on the Dave Elswick Show. I want to commend you about the book that you're reading right now, because you got to challenge yourself from the voices of the other side.
Yeah,
and I do that. I read 4 or 5 books a year that you would be stunned that I'm sitting down and reading. I remember being in high school and sitting down in class, and the book that I was reading was Soul on Ice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you were alive during the time I was in the early 70s, late 60s, you know about Carmichael, and you know about his ideas of racism, a guy that had a lot to do with forming the Black Panthers and all the rest. I read Malcolm X.
Yeah.
All right? Because I always felt you got to know the other person's argument too.
Yeah. Well,
you've got to. Maybe I'm missing something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's particularly when you're talking about public policy, it is good to hear from all sides. Be open to it, because there's sometimes policy can be made better by a few little nuances here and there. And what you're doing is you're not surrendering any principles. What you're doing is you're taking the principles that you have, you're aligning together on those, and trying to make that Venn diagram overlap the most people that you can to their benefit. To their benefit. But yeah, I agree with you. Is that reading to comprehend the other side has been very informative for me. Some of the wins that we've had, that we've helped contribute to here in the state of Arkansas in policy, have been informed to me by Arthur Brooks, the author and researcher, the social science researcher.
Typically falls to the right.
Yeah, I wrote, I think, The Conservative Heart. He wrote that book. He's hangs out with the Dalai Lama every now and then. He has a relationship, with him. Oprah even likes him. But he was at an Americans for Prosperity national meeting that we had, and he said this. He said, go where they don't expect you to go and say what they don't expect you to say. And if, as those that are conservative-minded and politically, the way to expand, in politics, you win by having more people with you than against you, right? That's what a vote and elections are about. Well, the way to win that is to go out there and talk to people that normally wouldn't think that you would talk to them.
Oh, yeah.
And find out, most of my conversations around policy that have been with those that are on the upside, it's like, what's your greatest fear about this policy idea? And then they tell me. And then I'm like, well, what if we were able to keep the core of this, tweak it to where that fear wasn't an issue for you? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And then we're now on the same side.
Or better yet, just presenting your argument to them, which may have never happened. All that they know is what they've heard somebody spout in a soundbite.
Yes, and that right there, Dave, is an advantage that I have been able to. Again, I'm not conning these individuals. I'm not bamboozling them. I'm not trying to sell them something that can't be delivered on. But it's to say, hey, what do you need? And can we find a way of solving that problem in a way that I don't surrender my principles and you get to the outcome that you want? And we'll say, yes, Lincoln has informed me with he had a quote that says, do I not defeat my enemies when I make them my friends?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the approach that I think we need more of. Doesn't mean you give up your principles. Again, not at all. There are conversations I'm having with my friends now that are like, so where's the line in the sand for you, man? Like, where is it that when you start seeing society move a certain direction that gets your blood up? What does that look like? And so we're having this conversation. So again, don't give up on that, but go out there and talk to people. I've shared this story here before, Dave, when having a conversation about the Biden administration and their energy policies. We were in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and we were doing an event to where we were shedding light on the higher cost of living that was being brought about as a result of Biden's administration.
When you were giving away
we were doing gas. We did groceries. We did gas, but this was unique. We bought 200 haircuts for kids that were about to head off to school.
Mm-hmm.
Haircuts are $20 a pop. So we had
easy now.
And in fact, I think it was at Pop's Barbershop in downtown, old downtown Pine Bluff, that we partnered with them. And they let us come down there, and we got to talk to people. And there was a young lady there who had 3 young boys, and she was appreciative because she's like, that's $60 for me right there, just to get these boys their haircut. And she goes, abundant energy, what is that about? So we explained to her what abundant energy was about. She goes, well, that makes sense to me because President Biden, we didn't even bring his name up, is wanting me to buy an electric vehicle that's $80,000 minimum, and I can't keep my late model minivan running.
Or I can't keep it filled up.
Right. And so immediately you have an opening there to talk to her about what's really in her best interest policy-wise. And by the end of the conversation, she's like, yeah, I'm all in on this. The technology for electric isn't abundant enough to make this worth my while. It's not cheap enough to where I can afford it. I need policies that are going to support keeping gasoline cheap.
When the guy that is developing the electric car in mass quantities tells the American people America is not prepared to go all electric, you should be willing to listen.
Yes.
I mean, Elon Musk told Biden what he wanted to do was not going to work.
Right. But when you share those stories, share your stories. Do people know why you believe what you believe? Do they know where you came from? I referenced a friend that's, our acquaintance that he and I get together and work sometimes shoulder to shoulder against sales tax increases here in Little Rock. Far, far, far left. In definitely even self-described as a Trotsky communist.
But even then understands that the government taking your money coercively that way is not in your best interest.
Right. Now, in that instance, yes, he and I agree on that. There are other instances where he would probably have a different opinion than what you just stated. But here's what I asked him. I said, how did you arrive at your political beliefs? And he said, I grew up poor, and the only quality of life improvement that we saw came from government workers. And that's what he saw. So he didn't have a foundational basis that he saw to where, and I think I could walk him through and show him the same thing a little differently, because I believe that business does more than anybody to help us improve our quality of life. It really does.
Capitalism has risen just more people out of poverty than any other economic theory.
System. Yeah, Venezuela's proof of that. They had a great economy that was going, everything. Things flipped with Chavez and now Maduro.
Yeah, it spiraled right down the toilet bowl.
Yeah, and people are leaving in droves because of the economics. It just crushed them. They can't afford necessities.
When the dogs in your country disappear and you don't see them on the streets anymore, that's a pretty indicative argument against whatever the government's doing.
Yeah. So, man, we've talked all kinds of things. We've talked policy. We've talked candidates. We're talking political, theory and grassroots strategy.
That's what's great about this show.
It's like a Reader's Digest of the things you need to know.
Yeah.
But going through this again, it is political season. It is time to put your shoulder to the wheel and support the candidates that you believe are going to bring about greater prosperity for you and your family. People vote their pocketbooks the most. That's really what they vote. That's the first thing. There are other things that they vote on, but I know that certain areas of Arkansas are turning purplish. And I talked to the lawmakers up there, and the conversation is the one uniting factor up here, red, blue, purple, whatever you are, is they want more money in their pockets because the cost of living and the remnants of high inflation are still sticking around, and they need to make the ends meet.
And guess what? They'll take a government check as well as any other kind of check.
Yeah. Well, there is that. But the best policy is to let them keep what they've earned, because then it incentivizes them to earn more. And if you want to, I forget who to attribute it to, but they say that if you really want to, something to atrophy, you tax it. Tax the things you don't want.
Tax those things you want to get rid of, and don't tax the things that you want to grow.
Yeah, and that's why there's been. It's not worked out well, but they'll be like, okay, well, we're going to do heavy taxes on cigarette smoking, and we're going to fund healthcare with that. And then you're like, well, then people started smoking less.
Oxymoron.
Yeah, they get the smoking less because they can't afford it, and then the money goes down. They're like, well, where are we going to come up with the money to fund this program we created? Kind of thing. So again, we're all over. I got so many pins and ideas that we've talked about. I don't always know which one to go back to, but I do say again, by nature of it, Americans for Prosperity being a grassroots organization, that we are in a growth mode right now, to where if you are interested at all in leading your community to effective change locally, statewide, even federally, we're going to have opportunities to engage with voters in other states. We do Adopt a State, to where we may be calling into Georgia. Ossoff.
No, that's a real battle.
He sided with Chuck Schumer on the government shutdown, and that caused a lot of harm to a lot of people, because they were not willing to fund the government until they got their say on other issues like the healthcare issue, which is the healthcare issue is we're upset because Republicans won't put a Band-Aid over the gaping wound that is the Affordable Care Act that really wasn't designed to be affordable anyway.
Your carotid artery is spewing blood, and you want to put one of those little round Band-Aids on it. It doesn't work that way.
Right. And you don't have you don't hold the government hostage over those kind of things. It really put a strain on a lot of people. And at the end of the day, it was the Democrats who cried uncle on this. And now I do say props to Senator Fetterman. He stayed with it. He's like, you don't do this way. Let's talk about health care in its absolutes.
That's right.
Not, as a bargaining chip over here. And so, we will have opportunities to where we can hold those senators accountable, because the midterms are going to be a little tough.
Well, it's very important that we hold on to the two branches of the government that will be really the one branch when we're talking about the legislative branch. That's what we're talking about, the next election. It's important that we hold on to the House and we hold on to the Senate if we want to get the things truly that we voted for from President Trump.
Right.
I mean, that's just speaking the truth to everybody. All right, I got to give you some truth. We got to take a break. We got a break, and then we'll be back. We'll finish up our final hour with Ryan Norris. He's the state chairman of people who get in and work at the grassroots level with Americans for Prosperity. It's important that you understand that you that's looking at the radio right now, because I just said you have a big push on this as well. That's coming back. Let's finish it up when we return on the Dave Elswick Show. All right, back with you here on the Dave Elswick Show. Let me ask you one last question, Ryan. I keep hearing from the right news media saying things about that the people who supported Donald Trump could give a tinker's damn about the Maduro thing. I think that they're wrong. Absolutely wrong. Keeping our hemisphere clean of the Chinese and the Russians benefits everybody, as far as people are talking about they want bring down inflation. Well, inflation has been corralled pretty good, and it is coming down. And the work that the president has done with the oil companies and others I don't think anybody would disagree with me. Gas prices have come down significantly.
Yeah, they're down.
And that affects everything that you do, whether it's you're driving, whether you're going to the grocery store. It affects, what's on the shelves and how much it costs to put them there, and that turns into some pennies for you.
Yeah.
When you go out and buy your groceries. So I'm all about doing the things that he has to do concerning international politics, but I also want him to do things for our local politics as well. And everybody's got to understand, it's only been now, today is the 7th? 6th.
Today's the 6th. Tomorrow's the 7th.
It's only been 6 days that the big, beautiful bill has been in vogue.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take a few more months, folks, to really get it grab hold and start doing the things that it's supposed to do.
There were some energy components in it that should be positive. You got to see what happens on the Senate side, but the SPEED Act, passed.
Oh, yeah.
Congressman Westerman's bill passed, which makes it the National Environmental Protection Agency gives some tighter timelines, or it holds them to timelines, doesn't have it open-ended.
It gives you a chance to circumvent them a bit.
Yeah, well, you can use the process to slow it down. Your intention is not to improve the environment or any of that. It is to keep these projects from ever materializing, because the longer it takes, the more cost that it is.
That's correct.
And so there's conversations today. I'm going to be on a podcast about energy. I'm a guest on there talking about energy policy. And one of the components of that is the regulatory environment. The longer it takes to get these projects up and running, the more it costs the consumer.
A good example You know, in the United States, we haven't built a refinery in like 20 years.
Right.
And the reason that is because before you turn over the first spade of dirt, the federal government is going to cost you somewhere in the, $400 or $500 billion range to even start to build it.
Yeah.
That's got to stop.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not just in that. I have a family member who is very involved in getting drugs through clinical trials. I mean, she is overseeing hundreds of these. And I asked her, said from concept through R&D and through the approval processes, how much is it costing? And she said easily $1 billion. So just to get the drug out there to market. So some of them don't make it to market.
No.
But that means...
So for that company, that's $1 billion that you just flushed down the toilet.
Right. And so they're making those trade-offs. But so what do they do? Since the regulatory environment costs them that much, they have to get that amount of money off the current drugs that are on the market. They have to get the next R&D amount of money, the $1 billion, on top of whatever the cost to manufacture the current drugs are. And so the regulatory environment also, if someone's talking about lowering drugs and they're just trying to do some price constraints through government, that's not the way to go. Look at all of these things that do not contribute to safety or are designed to slow down the processes intentionally, not to get to a result or get to a decision to be made about safety, yes or no, but to just say we don't really want this at all and we're going to put in these little areas where we can keep throwing monkey wrenches in the gears, be it energy, be it healthcare. That exists. Be it business. Much of the businesses that are great businesses now couldn't be started in the current environment. And there's business leaders who would tell you that. My multi-billion-dollar business couldn't have started that today.
Right.
It couldn't have happened. And it just also makes it more and more difficult for small business to do business. When you see new regulatory issues pop up or new reporting issues pop up from government on business, large businesses don't care all that much.
No, mom and pops do.
But the mom and pops do because they're the ones that are their own legal team, accounting team, etc. They don't have an army of employees and staff. So you need to take that into consideration as we're talking about all this. Arkansas is doing well. We have just now the article in DemGaz, we have surpluses still being made even after all the tax cuts. Are there regulatory reforms that we could make in all these areas that we kind of just policy buckets we just discussed? Yes, that would then catalyze more economic growth and development, which would then lead to more surpluses, which means we could drive the tax rate even further, faster downward.
And we should be doing as much of that as possible. We're out of time. Brian, thanks for coming in. I appreciate you making it possible to have you here for a couple of hours on each Tuesday. We'll see you next week, and we'll talk more about how to make the economy better here in the state of Arkansas. I'm Dave Elswick. We've got Carlton Wing coming up after the news. AETN, that's what he handles now. Corporation of Public Broadcasting just shut its doors yesterday. What does that mean for them? We'll talk about it here on the Dave Elswick Show.
This is the Dave Elswick Show. Find him on Twitter and on Facebook at Dave Elswick Show. Dave Elswick Show. Find